Welcome back to coverage of the finals here at the RCQ and Apex Gaming Invitational Qualifier here in Caldwell, Ohio. I'm Tandy, aka Todd Anderson. I'm joined by
Ross Merriam.
And we got one more match. 2 decks left. And what are they, Ross? Tell us the matchup.
We have our 3-seed Ryan Hayes, the #1 player on the Apex Gaming Invitational Series leaderboard, playing Is It Murktide, tearing through this tournament, undefeated, hasn't dropped a match, playing against Scotty Doolittle on a very inventive Scapeshift Bring to Light deck, playing Keruga as a companion. He defeated Azorius Hammer in the quarterfinals, Merfolk in the semis, Hayes dispatching Deshaun Johnson on Mono White Hammer, and then Joshua Waddell in a matchup of undefeated players in the semis on Mill. So it's Scapeshift against Murktide, and I gotta like the Murktide side of it.
I do too. I think the card Spell Pierce is going to be excellent in a lot of spots. Counter spells generally line up well against decks that are ramping or have expensive spells. There's no like Cavern of Souls and a Primeval Titan going on here. This is just straight up casting my 4 and 5 mana baddies, and if you have the answer, I am toast.
Yeah, I completely agree, and you know that just that combination of pressure and counter spells is traditionally great against ramp decks.
Yep.
And there's the added dimension, or 2 added dimensions that even push it further into Ryan Hayes' favor. The first is he's got 2 main deck copies of Blood Moon in his deck.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah,
and the second is, by virtue of playing Keruga, there are very few cards that Scotty Doolittle can even play in his deck that answer a Ragavan turn 1 on the draw.
Yep.
Dead Gone being the premium one, doesn't have any copies. He has Leyline Binding and Fire Ice as his early interaction.
Okay.
Nothing more in the sideboard that can deal with a turn on Ragavan, and he's on the draw in game 1 because Hayes is the higher seed.
All right, well, let's go ahead and head down to the feature match area. These 2 players are ready to go. Let's see if we can crown a champion. See who takes it down between these 2 players who have played very well with cool decks all day.
Hayes once again playing it cool with the face down hand.
Yeah. What I say, face down hand always wins. Man, usually when your opponent's mulliganing. All right, turn 1 Flooded Strand. Do we have a fetch? No, we do not.
Ooh, no Ragavan on the play. That is a big win for Doolittle, but I do see a Blood Moon in Ryan Hayes' hand.
Yep, we also have a Ledgerman. So turn 2 Ledgerman, turn 3 Blood Moon is a pretty solid start, and we'll see if Doolittle can beat that Blood Moon in some way.
Now, Doolittle does have many basics in his deck. He should know Ryan Hayes, a staple on the tour. He should know these lists, be playing around Blood Moon. But importantly, he's going to need to find a basic forest to be able to cast Dryad after the Blood Moon.
Right.
And that Flooded Strand does not find him a forest.
Wow, perfect draw here. Mishra's Bauble is going to allow for Ledger Shredder with the Connive on turn 2. So we're going to get a loot, potentially a counter, and a cycle on the Bauble and keep it churning.
Yeah. Ryan Hayes falling to 18 from the fetch. Doolittle also going to shortcut, I think, by cracking his Flooded Strand. Doesn't want to get left out of this Flooded Strand fetching parade. Draws an Unholy Heat off the Connive, decides to discard it. Ooh, Ledger Shredder getting a counter. What do you think about that, Todd?
It's about damn time.
Turn 2.
I have never seen that happen in this format. It's like seeing a bird hatching from an egg. You know it happens. You never see it live unless you're a farmer.
Taking a look at Doolittle's hand, I see a Leyline Binding. That can take care of this Ledger Shredder right now. But it is going to potentially leave him vulnerable to a Murktide Regent. I also see 2 copies of Bring to Light in Doolittle's hand. So
it's way worse than that. It's leaving him vulnerable to a Blood Moon.
Yeah.
Now, this is a little weird for Ryan because now only has the 1 blue mana, right? But it's going to hurt his opponent way more than himself. Also has the ability to use Odawara to bounce the Leyline Binding at some point to get his creature back, and that card cannot be recast as is.
I think that's basic forest
No
naturally
shot.
drawn.
What a monstrous
But
draw.
doesn't have the Dryad. Just buys Keruga for turn. If Scotty Doolittle can find a Dryad of the Elysian Grove, he might be able to turn this Blood Moon around.
Yeah.
This is the first time Ryan Hayes hasn't been super patient with the play. I think it made sense. Your opponent has 2 Triomes on the battlefield. Get your Blood Moon down.
Here's the punt. Your life total is not relevant, right?
Yeah.
Ryan Hayes did not have to crack the Flooded Strand on 1 to get Steam Vents. Drew Spire Bluff Canal for turn 3. Could have seen 1 more draw step before making that decision on turn 2.
He drew Canal on turn 4. Right?
No, he played it
Oh,
on
no, he
turn
played
3.
on 3, yeah.
But regardless, the deck would have gotten shuffled. Doesn't matter. He had a draw step to find a red source so he could fetch an island and go turn 2 Ledger Shredder off island.
Yeah, and then you need to find a red source to play the Blood Moon. That's
But you get he missed one look, is all I'm saying. There was a look.
that's aggressive. Consider Bins, Aspire Bluff Canal. Yeah, I think this is a race to basic island or a bunch of red creatures for Ryan Hayes to Dryad of the Elysian Grove. There it is.
Yeah, and now we get to unlock essentially all of our spells and play some extra lands. Hayes can't play the counter spell. The Blood Moon only has one island, or only Elysian with one blue source. Oof. It's my man.
There's a Soul of Windgrace. Now, the Dryad of the Elysian Grove gives his Doolittle's lands every land type, but the Blood Moon is still turning off abilities like Valakut. So the Valakut the Molten Pinnacle is not going to be triggering here, but all of Scotty Doolittle's cards are unlocked, and this is looking great. Yeah, consider Mill's cards that are irrelevant or uncastable for Ryan Hayes, and the Blood Moon, doing work this game, but not for the person who cast it.
All right, here's an anecdote for you, Ross. I'm a smart guy. I play Blood Moon sometimes. How often do you play Blood Moon as the smart guy, and your opponent naturally draws their basics after you Blood Moon them? That seems to happen to me a lot.
That's happened a few times.
But when my opponent played Blood Moon, I don't draw my basic lands, and I usually play 3 or 4.
DRC coming in because it has to.
Yep.
Surveil keeps it on top. There's an Unholy Heat.
All right. Well, we can kill this Dryad now, and that'll shut down the ability to play a bunch of stuff.
The damage is already done with the Soul of Windgrace. Yeah, got to deal with the Dryad
it
first.
It only does red, though, right?
It just attacks for 5.
Sure, but you can eventually find another Unholy Heat or something to deal with that. But getting...
You got to do it in 3 turns.
Yeah, 3 turns in a lifetime. Also has Otawara still.
Oh, Otawara will do it. Cycling is Xander's Lounge. Smart. There's an uncastable Teferi.
Whole bunch of uncastables. That Unholy Heat was a big game.
And if I'm Scotty Doolittle, I'm actually trying to take the lands out of Hayes' graveyard to maybe take them off Delirium.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
Gets back to Flooded Strands.
Hayes' Flooded Strands are just as good as yours.
Here we come in for 3. We do have access to 1 green mana, so we can use the Soul of Windgrace to gain some life. Ledger Shredder is the play. We're going to go Bolt upstairs.
Upstairs, okay.
Pitch Counterspell. I would have liked to have pitched Spell Pierce. We could draw the island. Another Darcy.
Okay. Well, and now that's 8 damage with Doolittle on 9. So this is a 2-turn clock now for Hayes. Doolittle's on a 3-turn clock unless he finds multiple lands to use the red ability on Soul of Windgrace, but even that's not going to be good enough against the Otawara of Ryan Hayes. So I think he has turned this back around, finding the removal spell for the Dryad.
Yep. Can attack for 5, get a land back, but the land still doesn't tap for anything relevant, and doesn't have a land in hand to gain life or use it any of the other abilities with the Soul of Windgrace.
Yes, attack for 5 puts Ryan Hayes to 8. That's a Misty Rain Forest, so all 3 flyers come in, put Doolittle to 1. Pass the turn.
That's a Fire Ice. Fire can be cast. That is 1 short of lethal without an extra land in hand. What a close game. I did not think Ryan was going to win that, but killing the Dryad of Elysian Grove really locks his opponent out of the game. Nicely done.
Yeah, calm, cool, and collected. Looked like the Blood Moon might get the better of him in the first game.
That's a Blood Moon guy. You Blood Moon, you. Gotcha.
But he composes himself, uses his considers wisely. All of his sequencing was seeing maximum cards. Yep. Make sure he's triggering his Ledger Shredder all the time, triggering his DRCs as much as possible, aggressively bidding cards that aren't going to be good enough, finds the Unholy Heat just in time, and turns that game back around to take game 1.
Well done. All right, Ross, in your expert opinion, these 2 players here, they're going to be going to their sideboard. Is there anything from their sideboard that's going to have a huge impact on the matchup, and what do you think it's going to be?
So, looking at Doolittle's board, he's got the Keruga as a companion. The 3 temporary lockdowns are okay. I kind of want 1 sweeper, because I think 1 sweeper is a way to deal with a wide battlefield of small creatures. Can be helpful off of Bring to Light. So maybe Culling Ritual, maybe Temporary Lockdown. I go for Lockdown just to exile them.
I would maybe trim some of the more expensive things in the deck and just bring in a ton of interaction.
Yeah.
I don't love Soul of Windgrace. It was in play for 8 turns, did nothing.
There was a Blood Moon in play. So
Well, yeah, but like even if the Blood Moon wasn't in play, what was it going to be doing?
Attacking.
No lands in hand. Can't do anything.
Hmm.
Doesn't do anything. It has no abilities except for the land, the game land or whatever.
It's still gonna attack.
Sure.
So we got 2 Mystical Disputes. Those are great. Got 3 Force of Vigors. Probably need to bring a couple of them in against Blood Moon, even though it's only good against Blood Moon. 3 Endurance. Those are going to be very good. 2 Unmoored Ego and the 1 Culling Ritual. So definitely a lot of options here for Doolittle in his sideboard. I expect some significant changes, and I agree with you. I think some of the more expensive cards will come out. You know, the one Time Warp that is a cheeky target for Bring to Light, cut that one.
Yeah.
You're never going to be in a situation where you want that.
Just lower the curve. You want to lower the curve against Counterspell and Spell Pierce, really.
Agreed. Looking at Hayes' sideboard here, he has 1 Jason Mind Sculptor, 2 Unlicensed Hearse, 2 Mystical Dispute, 2 Dress Down, 2 Subtlety, 1 Brazen Borrower, 2 Brotherhood's End, 1 Dead Gone, and 2 Flusterstorm. I like the Brazen Borrower. I like the Mystical Disputes against Bring to Light, Teferi, and Opposing Disputes.
What do you think about cutting Lightning Bolt? Not a lot of targets, eh?
Yeah, I think Bolt is pretty bad. I kind of like the Jace, but not really.
Can't really tap out.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like the combo of Jace plus Subtlety in matchups where your opponent's throwing haymakers at you. And while this deck isn't like a Primeval Titan deck, it plays in a very similar way and has a lot of top-end expensive creatures. And at the very least, a pitch Subtlety on an early Dryad of Leasing Grove can just allow you to lock them out with Blood Moon before it actually becomes troublesome.
Yeah, I can see that, but there's not a ton of great targets for Subtlety, so I think I would issue the Jace and just have some disputes and the Brazen Borrower.
All right, we're on to game 2 of the finals. We got Doolittle on your right playing Keruga's Shift. We got Ryan Hayes on your left with Blue Red Murktide. Both these players in the finals here.
Ryan Hayes disagrees with me. He likes the Subtleties because I see one in his opening hand.
All right.
So see a Murktide Regent, Expressive Iteration. Is that Blood Moon again?
Yeah, Blood Moon, easy. But no basics, so.
Well, I see a fetch, so we can at least have one if we want a Blood Moon next turn. This might be a game where, he waits on it. Oh, there's a basic.
Fetch and an island. So
we could play it next turn after fetching for an island and would have with another basic in hand. But Doolittle being on the play now has the luxury of getting more basics because he didn't have to Leyline Binding on turn 2. So getting his forest out early. Might be getting another basic here. I think I say Misty Rain Forest, so that could represent Island. So that goes for a Sacred Foundry, and there's a Teferi. So this resolving, because there's no Pierce or Dispute there, you can plus this Teferi, and then the Blood Moon will, you'll have an onboard answer.
Yeah, but Subtlety here, not just good against creatures, can also hit the Planeswalkers, and now the Teferi is going to become essentially a dead card because this Blood Moon is coming. Yeah, I know. That's why it's so good. It kind of, you self-lock or whatever, you know? We're going to fetch islands.
Gonna get punished.
Yeah. Now there is still a good chance for Doolittle to win. Some sort of answer to it could be good. To the Blood Moon.
Notably, also as a Flooded Stranded hand, could have gone for the basic planes there and still cast the Teferi. Then you'd at least have 3 basic land types in play, so Leyline Binding would be castable.
Right.
Yeah, maybe in this deck, we saw in the Creativity deck earlier, not being able to deal with Blood Moon effectively because they only have a basic mountain. But with a couple basics in this deck, it's a lot easier to get in range where Leyline Binding is an answer.
Right.
So maybe you wouldn't need to bring in Force of Vigor at that point. But Doolittle not getting his basic planes here, so gonna need to draw a Force of Vigor probably, or a Dryad of the Elysian Grove that lives.
Yeah. Now Hayes, being patient once again, has access to Counterspell. Gonna probably wait so you can potentially stop a Dryad of Elysian Grove. Doolittle, nothing to do, just gonna buy a Keruga and pass turn. Has the ability to cast fire, but not ice. Has the ability to pitch cast an endurance. All right, we're going to find a consider. We're going to cast it immediately. Bend on a land. Draw into a land. Pass the turn. No threat yet. Bless
you. Interestingly, Hayes being a little impatient there with the counter spells in hand, tapping out.
Can't just hold it forever, I guess. Just needs a threat. Just decided it was time to try.
Yeah. No punishment there from Doolittle either. And I see an Unholy Heat there. Unless that was the draw for turn, you're kind of safe to tap out because you know you can deal with one Dryad.
Right. And maybe that was it. Maybe they knew that,
Yeah.
or maybe they already had the heat.
Still no threats here. Just some mountains, couple counter spells, and an Unholy Heat. Hayes deciding to keep some of those mountains in hand, probably to potentially discard to Ledger Shredder later.
Yeah. All right. Just both players being very draw-go-ish.
There's a wet mountain for Scotty Doolittle. Rose Bauble.
You say a wet mountain?
Yeah, it's Watery Grave.
Ah, it's a wet, swampy mountain. Gross.
Sanders Lounge gets cycled.
Found the
There's a
Leyline
Leyline
Binding.
Binding, but we can't cast it.
Nope, needed that plains early off the Fluttershy. I think you hit the nail on the head.
Okay, Doolittle deciding to go for a pitch cast Endurance because he's going to have to discard the hand size anyway, and this will prevent a Murktide Regent. And with Blood Moon in play, it's a lot harder for Ryan Hayes to fill his graveyard. That said, he could just play a land and cast a 3/3 flyer,
Yeah.
and that might be good enough. There's another iteration, solid draw.
Yeah, it's going to leave the shields down for one turn now that the Unholy Heat doesn't do much, but we do find 2 threats. So we're going to bottom the Dispute, keep Brazen Bar, keep Rogavan. And now we can dash it and go ahead and get a treasure, and that'll unlock Counterspell, and I think that that's essentially game over.
Yeah, but this is going to eat a fire. So
Oh, that's true. Good call.
we're probably going 1-1, so Hayes will go to 18. But still nothing too threatening here for Hayes. He can Petty Theft anything that Doolittle plays, and then have the counterspell up next turn.
Now, one potentially scary thing, if Hayes taps out for something, so he doesn't have Counterspell up, Doolittle could draw a Dryad, play Dryad, and then immediately play something like Bring to Light, and even a Unholy Heat on the Dryad doesn't stop him from going to find an answer to the Blood Moon or some Haymaker card to put on the table.
Interesting here from Hayes, elects not to play the Borrower on end step, really being patient. Maybe, says maybe I need to Petty Theft later. Draws a DRC, but only 3 cards types in the graveyard after that Endurance. Sorcery, Creature, Artifact would normally have a land in there with that pile of fetch lands. So Blood Moon allowing this Fire Ice to take out a Dragon's Rage Channeler.
All right, now Counterspell here is interesting because it does save the Dragon Rage Channeler so you can keep the pressure on, but it does leave him vulnerable to a potential top deck here from Doolittle. Let's see if you can punish. Doesn't seem like. Your gut.
With the answers that Hayes has in his hand, the only real punish is double Dryad. And the other thing about playing that counterspell is it added the 4th type.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Blood Moon, and now we're going to get a 9 powers worth of attackers coming in.
2-turn clock with a counterspell in hand.
Yeah.
And there's even the 3rd basic island.
Found the Xander's Lounge. Going to cycle it. That's not going to do it. Basic Mountain, not quite.
Oh, that's the mountain?
Yeah. Womp womp.
That was the basic plains. We'd be able to Leyline Binding, but it would just mean a counterspell. So.
All right, we pack it in. Doolittle loses game number 2, and Ryan Hayes takes it down. He is your victor here today at the Apex Gaming RCQ and Invitational Qualifier in Caldwell, Ohio. A great event won by a great player playing what he says is the best deck. What do you think, Ross?
Yeah, well, I think we had this really interesting top 8 with a lot of fringe decks. It was Merfolk, it was Keruga Scapeshift, it was Mill, it was Azorius Urza, and instead just stock Is It Murktide in the hands of a great player says, get all this nonsense out of here, the trophy is mine.
Yeah. So he's going to win 550 hard-earned dollars. A qualification not only to the Apex Gaming Invitational next February, but also the Regional Championship in San Diego in, I want to say, April?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it is.
Congrats to him. Well played and well deserved. Let's come back to the booth. It's late. We can maybe get a little interview with him. Do you want to interview him? Oh, he's here. All right, come on over.
He's here.
You do it, or you want me to do it?
Sure.
All right, come on, sit down. Ross is going to ask you some questions, and you can answer as snidely as you like.
Yeah. So first of all, congratulations. A great run. We watched you all day. Very impressed by how patient you were in a lot of games. Really just, sequencing, not getting overly aggressive and opening up windows for your opponent. Really just kind of ran a clinic through this tournament. And I did like you registering it as best deck. Yeah.
We catch those things.
I assume
That was good.
I assume you've been Murktiding people for a while.
Maybe a month now.
Yeah.
I was playing 4-color until Urian got banned, and then
Yeah. And so play the best deck before it gets banned. Move on to
Yeah.
the next best deck. Yeah. You're a play the best deck guy.
play the best blue deck.
Sure. A best blue deck. But that's the best deck anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Other question: did you your matchup in the quarterfinals? We didn't get to see that one on camera at all. How did that one go against Deshaun Johnson?
So game 1, I just kind of like tempoed him out with some DRCs. Felt good. Game 2, I set up a big Brotherhoods end to hit a bunch of artifacts, and then he just like untaps and gets to like Nettlesys and just like starts doing things again, and then I end up losing that one. And then game 3, I do the same thing where I get 2 Memnites, a Pithing Needle, a Hammer, a Shadow Spear, and a Nettlesys on my Brotherhood's ends, and then was able to close it out.
Yeah, it looked pretty easy from that point. So that means by my count, you were 8-0 in matches on the day and lost 3 games.
I don't know the game count, but that's cool.
Yeah. Pretty good record. So we were going to see you in February at the Apex Gaming Invitational. We're also going to see you later that year at the Regional Championship in San Diego. So congrats for qualifying for both of those.
Awesome.
And have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Oh, you gotta shake my hand too, man. Yeah, good job. All right, well,
Okay.
that is gonna do it for our broadcast here at Apex Gaming. They brought me and Ross for 2.5 days. We had a blast, and if you missed any of the action all weekend, it's all gonna be on YouTube. Make sure to follow Apex Gaming on YouTube. If you want to see the leaderboard or where you can play any of these Apex Gaming Invitational qualifiers around this area, make sure to go to apexgaming.gg. All of the deck lists from this event will be posted later on apexgaming.gg. But I think that's it. We're just going to raid somebody in a few minutes, but I just want to say big thanks to everyone from Caldwell who brought me and Ross down, and Ross, thanks for being in the booth with me all week, and it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, this was great. We love being here. This is now our 3rd time here at the Apex Gaming home store. As I've said multiple times throughout the day, we will be back in February for the Apex Gaming Invitational, and I think we might be back here one more time in between then.
Yeah, I hope so.
This is about the halfway point of the season, so still plenty of time to qualify for that tournament if you're in the area. It's not just tournaments here that will qualify you for that invitational. There's a lot of local stores participating in the series in Southeast Ohio and the surrounding area. So go to apexgaming.gg to find out all the info and check out maybe a store closer to you that you can hit up and qualify for this tournament, and come to the home store for that, because there's a lot more money on the line at that invitational.
Sure is. Well, thanks for joining us. For those at home, thanks again to Young Dingo for the early raid today. That helped us gain a lot of momentum in the broadcast, and we really appreciate it. Today was a great day. I feel honestly not that tired compared to yesterday. Playing Magic for 6 straight hours is a little harder than casting Magic for
let everybody else do that. We can just sit here and talk about all the things they should have done better, because we have perfect information the entire time.
So, you are a fan of the Muppets, I assume.
I'm a fan of Statler and Waldorf.
Right. That's us now. We are Statler and Waldorf. We just chirp at everybody and call out all their mistakes constantly while laughing.
That's my destiny anyway, so yeah.
We're doing it. We're living their life. Yeah. We're just not that old yet.
Yeah.
We will be eventually.
I'm that old on the inside.
All right. Well, my man Taryn's going to raid somebody. I don't know who we're going to, so we'll just say thanks for hanging, and we'll see you next time. Appreciate y'all joining us.